Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Barb. You want to just say hello in the chat, just so that I know you can hear me? And please, if you have any questions or concerns, you can post them in the chat as well if you don't want to speak. Hello. Welcome to our call. It is about Ask Me Anything as it relates to your challenges with eating. So I hope you have questions or concerns that you would like to have addressed by me. That's why I'm here, and that's why I offer this free service every month. And hello, Zoom user. Do you have a name? Oh, Myrna, my dear friend Myrna. Hello, hello. How are you? Good. I have your question that I will absolutely address in a few minutes. I just want to give others time to come on. Put my phone on silent. Just wait another minute or two. Hello, Nancy. You could just say hello in the chat so I know you're here and you hear us. Suggestions for lunch ideas. Okay, well, we will get to that as well. That's really a good point. Also, I'd love to discuss why it's not a big meal for you. But I want to start with Myrna's question. Myrna is a consistent participant in these calls and sent me a wonderful question. And I ask all of you, when you get the invitation to join me, if you don't have time to stay on the call for the full hour, or if you can't make it at all, I'm very happy to receive your questions beforehand. And as these calls are recorded and then they're uploaded to my monthly newsletter, you will certainly get the answer. And if you can't wait until the newsletter comes out, I'm very happy to address it in an email to you personally, of course, so we can always set up that complimentary discovery call. And Nancy said she can't stay long. So Nancy, if you have a question, please put it in the chat and I will get to it after I address Myrna and Barb's concerns. So Myrna, I'm going to read your question, but I'd love for you to unmute so you can participate and make sure that I have interpreted this correctly. So Myrna writes, can you address the tactful way to avoid food conversations? I never realized how triggering food, diet, recipes, eating, or anything to do with and around food is just a downer for me, because so much of my healing is dependent upon my ingestions. Any conversations of food reminds me of my disease and the work it takes to be healthy. You wrote here, I know this is the opposite of what you teach, since I'm asking for all things not food, but that's not true. It's everything I teach, because the truth is, Myrna, that it's very rarely about the food. Our behavior with food becomes a symptom of something that's deeper. Hi, Linda. First thing I want to address is most people don't realize that food is medicine, that all healing begins in the gut, and that what we choose to put into our bodies has a direct effect on what is outward and our healing process. 2,000 years ago, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said, let food be thy medicine. And I always share that Steve Jobs, the genius behind Apple, in his final essay when he was dying of pancreatic cancer, said, let food be thy medicine so that medicine need not be your food. So I share that with you, Myrna, and everyone else, to instill confidence, inspire you with the fact that you are making choices for your body that work for you. And it's important to have that confidence. And also it's important to realize that anybody who is questioning your food choices, questioning the food choices from a place that's a place anything but curiosity, is really sitting in judgment of their own choices and feeling insecure about their own. Maybe they're fearful that your choices reflect their inability to make better choices. You know, it's almost like the person who is abusing alcohol, having a meal with someone who doesn't drink and making that person feel badly for not having a drink. What do you mean you're not going to have a drink? It's the same thing. So it's really about, number one, flipping the mindset so that instead of being triggered, you can exude a confidence. But handling the conversations, you could simply just say, I'm choosing what works for me. What works for you? Turn it around. Or say, this is a really boring topic. Can't we talk about something else? What are your thoughts, Myrna, about my response?
So ironically, I had this conversation with someone today who started the conversation with, I hate going to my mother-in-law's house. She always says, do you feel like having dessert? And the woman says to me, I don't know what to say to my mother-in-law. I don't feel like having dessert. I don't want to have dessert. I'm not a dessert eater. I said, okay, so you're on the defensive. And here I'm thinking about today's session. What I'm going to say and what I usually default to is, when you feel some kind of way that's triggering, when you feel an emotion, when you feel a something, we naturally get on the defensive. And in order to counteract those weird, ugly feelings, I like to ask a question. So I always say, what do you mean? That's what I always say. So I said to her, so just say to your mother-in-law, what do you mean? And she said, and she'll say, my dessert, don't you want to have any? And just say, well, I don't understand. Why? Because that buys you time to get rid of that emotion. And usually that settles that other person in, like, well, I work so hard and I really want everyone to, whatever they need to say. And then I usually just say, oh, that sounds wonderful, but no, thank you. It just gives me time to let it go when I'm
I
feeling some kind of way.
Yeah, I get that. But I think a deeper issue, Myrna, is the emotion in the first place, right? Gaining the confidence in the choices that you're making for yourself so that you're not falling into, and I know you don't do this. I know you're not of the mindset of a sick and suffering person. But I think it's very important for you to exude that confidence so that this is what works for me. You choose whatever you want. You know, I very often, because I have what some people might consider peculiar choices when it comes to the food I put on my plate, I tell people, listen, you don't look at my plate, I won't look at your plate. Let's make this just about being together.
Yeah, that's just part of the struggle. Part of the struggle is that the society is socially around food. Is just always socially around food. And
Yeah.
I would love to make it about the social scene of just being in the presence of other people and enjoying their company. But you're right, everybody stands in their own judgment of however it is that they feel and impart it upon everybody in the room who's eating. And that's the discomfort of everybody being uncomfortable in what they're eating, how much they're eating. It's like it's like when people have a wedding, there's always a disturbance. Who do you invite? Who sits next to who? It's always uncomfortable. That's how I feel about eating. It's like an uncomfortable thing. It's like going to a wedding. Nobody wants to be invited. No one wants to sit next to someone. It's just uncomfortable. And you invite people over, hang out with you, and people ask me, "Get me food?" No, I don't have food here for you. No, bring your own. I don't. I'm not going to feed you snacks. No.
Okay, but maybe if you lay the groundwork before you invite people over.
True. No, they
Right.
all know. Everybody
Yeah,
knows.
exactly. And people are going to react to you in response to to the energy you're putting forward, right? Light attracts light, dark attracts dark. So if you're coming to the table, so to speak, literally and figuratively, um, with an issue, there's going to be an issue. It starts with us and how we present ourselves, who shows up at the table. Somebody that's confident in her choices and there to be with your companions, or somebody that's there to worry about what's being served
Mhm.
and to make an issue over it.
I think the most compliment I get for how I am with my eating choices is my youngest child is now working in the restaurant industry. And well, she's grown up with me with my limited food choices and going out to eat, and how my children have to order for me because I'm not very clear about my needs. And so they know. And so she recognizes that. So she has the patience and the wherewithal for people who she's serving.
Oh, I
It
love
really
it.
made a difference, right? It's nice.
But how can you work on gaining that clarity?
Um, you're not wrong with the confidence thing. So now I'm very confident about how I order, what I order.
Okay.
And I think part of it was the could have been the feeling of being judged, the feeling of being different, the why am I out to eat when my eating is not meant to be in a restaurant. It's not meant for that lifestyle. It's not meant. So once I got over that hump that I can go out to eat, I can order what meets my limited needs, and I can enjoy the company I'm with, and it's fine. I think that's what it was. I think it was just the fear of being different, the fear of like was used to be uncomfortable for me when the server would say, do you want this in it? You're just gonna have it plain, like, right. So when that would happen, I'd be like, uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I like it. Thank you very much. It serves me best. Yeah, I had that experience. I was out for dinner with my parents, and my father insisted on taking us to some hole in the wall Chinese restaurant. And I asked for my food steamed. And the waitress said to me, "Ah, no flavor?" I said, "Exactly. I don't care for the flavor that you're offering me.
Right.
Thank you very much."
You're right. Once you're empowered with how you're going to choose to eat the food that's being served in the restaurant, because if I'm going someplace I'm unfamiliar with the menu, I familiarize myself before
Yes.
going so that I'm well versed in what I'm going to say and how I'm going to handle anything. Because I don't want to be fearful anymore about going out to eat. I just want it to be an enjoyable experience. And it's gotten to the point where my children know I don't judge anybody. You have to walk your own path, make your own choices. Don't judge me. I won't judge you. We're all good.
Remember, we are not only the experts of our experience, but we need to be the masters of our healing and take charge of the choices that we make for ourselves, body, mind, and spirit. And in terms of a restaurant, so you can ask where you want to go. You can say, "This is not going to serve my needs." That's okay. And anybody who is not willing to respect that is not really worth your time to share a meal with.
Yeah, no, came to that conclusion.
Good.
So, I mean, yes, it was these little monthly things have been very, very helpful in clearing up my mind where it is okay to be the way I am. It's perfectly fine. It's who I am. And if I want to enjoy myself, I'm going to enjoy it on my terms. And I'm just going to do my thing and walk my path.
And it
And
doesn't have
worry
to be
about it.
about the food because, as you know, the seventh step of my 7 steps to food freedom is make sure you surround yourself with what truly nourishes. And that's not what we find in the kitchen. What truly nourishes us, besides sleep and movement and connections and nutrition, is is community, the commonality of being together and just experiencing.
So then
And
what's the answer to tell this woman, because I see her on a daily basis, with
about
her
dessert.
situation with her mother-in-law and dessert?
Thanks, Mom. I'm not interested in dessert today. I really appreciate it. Remember, especially, there's a generation of people who truly feel food is love and who don't feel complete unless they are nurturing and giving. I'm sure this woman has very, very good intentions. And I think it would really serve your friend if she looked at it that way. She looked at it with the mindset of abundance rather than one of scarcity.
I think for her, because she's very, 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 very thin, like thin, stick figure thin. And I think her mother-in-law is probably saying those things, like, you're just so skinny. You should,
But wait,
I think that's what's happening with her, and it's making her uncomfortable.
okay, so she can say that. She can say, I understand where you're coming from. I really do. I understand you wanting to feed me. But I've had enough, not into sweets right now. And thanks anyway.
I told her make her happy, and just if she's pushy, just say, sure, I'll take some home with me and eat it later. People feel happy if they give you something.
She could, but let her just get it over with and be genuine.
Mm, the people that don't want to hear your genuineness will just keep pushing. And she's married to her son, so
Right. Okay, so it's not a bad idea. Take it home. I'll have it later. Thank you. That's good. All right. I hope I answered your question.
yes.
Good. Um, Lunch ideas. Barb, can you unmute yourself? Because I'd love to know what your challenges are about lunch. Are you not hungry? Is meal prep an issue? What exactly is the challenge that you have about lunch? All you wrote was that it's not a big meal for you. Does that mean you're not hungry? You don't care for it? If you could give me a little more information, I'm happy to make suggestions. And while we're waiting for Barb, Linda, how are you?
Hello.
How are
Thank you,
you?
Mirna, for what you shared. I'm
Oh,
great. Great to
I,
see you, Mindy.
I'd love to hear your feedback if you have any.
Well, it's really funny that you're talking about that because I just sent an email to someone who had said, I have an aunt. She's like a cousin, but I call her aunt. And I really don't think there could be anyone more food pushy than her. If I sent you an email, you'd be exhausted reading it. She likes to send out emails about every little thing she cooked and an ingredient and what she served here and what she gave her one daughter, what she gave her other. And then she'll end with, oh, you tired, I have to put my feet up or something. Bless her heart, she'd give you the shirt off her back, but she'd talk your ear off and everything that she does. And I get, my father says she's just very unhappy. She used to work for a living and now she cooks for her family and that's what there is. But I relate to what you're saying, Mirna. I wouldn't bore you with the emails. You'd only see one, you'd go, oh my God. And I'm not always proud of the way I respond. I go there and she will put stuff on your plate and then she'll comment on your body. She'll tell me, oh, you're keeping your weight off, or oh, I see you're keeping your weight off, or you've put a little weight on. You look better. You were too thin before. But she always comments on people's bodies, not mine, anyone's. She's lost a lot of friends that way and her kids have given up. And shockingly enough, she's raised the most beautiful, respectful, lovely children. And that's just the way she is. My cousin always says, you know, you just don't take her seriously. So I used to lie. Now I don't lie anymore. I just, she really pushes strong. And I say, you know what, Gail? It looks delicious. I just ate before I came. She'll remember that for about 5 minutes. And then she'll just have one hot dog. You can have one. You probably didn't eat anything. And everything's around food with her. It's just exhausting. So all that to say, that's a lot of words to say. I totally relate to what you're saying. And I was really, really listening to what Mindy was saying, because I really want to walk away respecting myself. I don't want to feel like I'm going, which is what I feel like with her. Sometimes I've given in and I thought, oh, forget it, Linda, just eat. You'll be good tomorrow. And I go home feeling awful because I didn't want to eat what I wanted to eat. And then she'll give you more, and then she'll give you dessert. And she puts the food on your plate. She doesn't offer you to put it on her plate. So my cousin and I have long talks about this. Last time I said, you know, Gail, I'm just not eating that today. I would eat it. I'm just not eating it today. I've got no appetite. I'd love a coffee and I'll have a little salad. And she's going to keep pushing. And I found I have to keep being stern in my conviction to loving me. It's not easy. And I sometimes get into trouble if I say I'll take it home. I don't always trust myself to take it home and not eat it, right? Or take it home and put it in the garbage. So sometimes I do, and I'll give it to my father. But so I love what you're saying about, I think it's a lot of practice. Really, sometimes you do have to be a little pushy. I've had to say, no, please, not, I don't want any more. I'm stuffed. I don't want to go home. I mean, that's me throwing a little bit of a fit, though. I don't want to go home this full and feel miserable every time I come. And then she'll push back. But, you know, that's not the right way. So I'm just still struggling with it. And I like what Mindy's saying. Once, twice, and then maybe, you know, did you not hear me the first time, my darling? Or my dear? Maybe we have to put in a my dear,
Yeah. Yeah,
right? So,
I also think it helps if we understand the dynamic of the person we're dealing with, right? You know, what's their relationship with food like? You know, why are they a food pusher? You know, turn it around and make it about them, not so much to bring it up in discussion, but just in your own mind to understand who and what you're up against. You know, and I always, you know, talk about acceptance and compassion. You know, clearly this woman has a need to push food on you and her family. It obviously validates her.
I think it makes her feel very significant and it's important to her.
Right.
It's, yeah.
So much of what drives us in everything we do comes down to self-worth and
Mm,
how we see our place in the world and how we think other people see us, what we want, how we want others to see us. So I always, late in life, this came to me later in life, you know, to always look at and try to understand the reasoning behind somebody else's behavior. And the compassion allows me to respond more in kind to what my needs are.
mhm. That's really,
Acceptance breeds compassion. You know, so, you know, we're certainly not going to go there with a server in a restaurant, you know, but
no,
a friend or a mother-in-law or a cousin, an aunt, you know, understand where they're coming from and maybe you won't be so triggered.
that's so true.
Yeah. And as far as restaurant goes, hey, you're the paying customer. And if one restaurant won't accommodate you, there are plenty of others that will.
To that note, when I started my food journey, I used to just bring food with me. And I never really met with any problems. But as of late, maybe because the pandemic messed everybody up, but now there are signs and there are a lot of restaurants that don't allow you to bring
Right.
outside food in. And my understanding of that was don't go to Burger King and then go to a restaurant and bring your Burger King into the restaurant. But they've taken it all the way to you just can't bring your home cooked food to the restaurant because they obviously want to make a sale.
Right.
So I've navigated that because for me that was an interesting thing because I live in Florida and the restaurants here that the people I used to hang out with would go to are restaurants that don't have cutlery or plates. Everything is served in a basket. Everything has the paper. Everything's disposable and you eat with your hands. I don't eat any food with my hands. So I just stopped hanging out with those people because it just didn't serve me. They
Right.
weren't, it just didn't make any sense. And I would bring my food and they would say, I'm sorry, you can't eat outside food here. And I'd say, well, do you have this here? No, we don't serve that here.
Right, yeah. Yeah, well, like you said, it's then time to find another place to go. Where in Florida are you?
I'm in North Florida. It's like Bible Belt. Really should have moved to South Florida where the Northerners live, but
Yeah.
here because South Florida is very hot
Mhm.
and here it's nice weather. It's
And it's
nice.
better,
It's cool.
better for your health.
Yeah, that too. But I mean, I didn't have these health issues when I came here. I was like all the retired people, you move to Florida and live the life until you stop living the life.
Yeah. Right. Look, you're learning how to take care of yourself, and that's wonderful. And
Mhm.
just remember, you're the master of your healing.
Yeah, I
And
haven't encountered a food pusher though.
you haven't.
Just because I'm a little bit intimidating. So someone will push once and then they just they don't want to go there. And I don't know if it's just my personality because no is no and that's a sentence. So but that's where you have the empathy for trying to understand where someone comes from. I'm so far on the autism spectrum that I can't figure that part out. So I just ask questions. For me, that works for me to develop the empathy for that person because maybe that's where I've learned that from. I asked the questions to try to figure out what's their deal. I said no, but now they're still saying, so I don't understand. What do you mean? So when they start saying, well, this, right? But I still said no. So that's kind of how I learn the empathy for the other person, for their intentions. What are their intentions? Are their intentions, I don't like the way she looks, so I have to fatten her up? Are their intentions, I slaved this all day and you're not going to make me feel good if you don't eat it? So I try to understand where their intentions lie. And maybe that's just a different approach. You do the same thing with your approach, and I kind of do it with mine.
Yeah. I like the tool, the strategy that you've put into place with questioning. And I like the fact that you recognize that it buys you time to digest, for lack of a better word, right? The scenario.
Well, it's because the scenario was very stressful and my body can't handle any sort of stress. And once I feel that trigger of the stress, I had to come up with a plan so that it would go away or alleviate. If I encountered the food pusher, I might just have a headache and have to leave. I don't know. Most people usually acquiesce and just, okay, fine. That's her, like, whatever. She's not invited back, whatever it is.
All right, good. Good for you. All right, we can round back to this anytime. I wanted to address Nancy, I'm sorry, Barb's. I'm reading from the chat. She wants to know about lunch because she's not very hungry, but needs something to eat between breakfast and dinner. Or I would be eating dinner too early and want something much later. And I don't want to eat after 7 p.m. If I make lunch a big meal, I will then need some ideas for a light dinner. Okay, first of all, I want to congratulate you for listening to the messages that your body is sending you and listening to hunger cues. That's something that a lot of people are not connected to, or they deny their hunger because it scares them. So if that's not your issue, it's important. A big part of our well-being during the day is blood sugar stabilization. So it's very important that we eat to maintain our blood sugar. And how we do that is by including healthy fat, protein and fiber at every meal and snack that we eat. So your meal can be smaller, but it's important that it have those components. So what could that look like? It could look like a piece of high fiber bread with an egg and some avocado. That could be a light meal. And I have no problem with anybody eating breakfast for lunch or dinner. So that would be another issue you could think about. Dinner should not be the largest meal of the day because our metabolic efficiency is best when the sun is highest in the sky. And when our metabolic efficiency decreases, we don't digest as well. We don't digest as well, we don't absorb, we don't assimilate the nutrients, and we don't metabolize the food that we're eating. So lunch is an important meal for that reason. So perhaps you want to look at breakfast. Maybe breakfast could be a little smaller. And don't concern yourself with dinner having to be a large meal. And as long as you get those components in, the protein, the healthy fat, and the fiber, you'll keep your blood sugar stable during the day. And that will help eliminate cravings. Very often, blood sugar instability mimics anxiety. So you'll really feel much better and your body will work more efficiently. I hope that helps. If not, let me know in the chat if you don't want to talk. Ideas for a light dinner could be some vegetable soup with some quinoa in the soup or some brown rice in the soup, for your fiber, and the vegetables, of course, are loaded with fiber. You could put some cooked chicken in that vegetable soup if you want. I love having an omelet or frittata for dinner. There you can have all elements of the protein, fat, and fiber. Of course, a salad with some protein is always a good idea for lunch or dinner. So those could all be satisfactory. And eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're not is always a good idea. I'll try eating a bigger lunch and lighter dinner, good idea. I do eat when hungry rather than by the clock and eat until I feel full. Congratulations. That's great. That's really great, Barb. And also the other thing is think about meal prep. Meal prep is really very helpful because if you have the food prepared, then you don't have to stress over taking the time. If you're making a salad, make it large enough to serve you for several meals. If you're cooking chicken or, any kind of protein, make batches of it. If you want to cook some meat sauce, for example, buy a pound and break it into 4 servings and put 3 of them in the freezer until you're ready to eat them. And you can serve that over spaghetti squash or some lentil pasta, which is always a very satisfying meal, or spoon it over a baked potato or a sweet potato. It doesn't have to be a heavy meal. Make sure that it's easily digested and that it meets your biological needs, because what will sit well in my system might not necessarily sit well in yours, and vice versa. I want to say hello to Claire. Claire, do you have any questions?
Not yet. I just got in because I was running a little late. So, but I'll think on that. Thank you.
Great, good. Do you feel challenged by anything? What inspired you to get on the call today?
Well, I've been working with some of these ideas for a pretty long time, and I'm just trying to live my life that way and in a way that feels calmer and more peaceful and have a better relationship with my body and with food. That's really what I'm trying to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it starts with having a better relationship with our bodies.
Yep. And that's not easy in this world.
It's not
Mm.
easy in this world, and it's not easy as we get older, right? But,
Right.
everything is
Sure.
anti-aging, anti-aging. I mean, we're
Yeah.
mature women on this call, and what's wrong with aging,
Right. It's when
right?
you think about that term, it's pretty amazing that this is like it's presented as a positive. Anti-aging. Okay, I'll stop aging. Thank you.
Yeah, what's the alternative, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
I wish women would look at it as just a new season of life.
Mm.
Yeah, it's
And
tough.
understand that every wrinkle we have, every sag we have, we've earned. It's
Mhm.
because we've lived.
We are just such an ageist culture besides being
Yes.
fat
Yeah.
phobic.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what though? It's so funny because, you know, all all of the communication that's out there now in the media that's out there also about body positivity
Mhm.
and the anti-fat phobic community is sending dangerous messages as well. Not that I'm saying fat is dangerous. I'm just saying the judgment about body type in general. It's almost like reverse prejudice. You know,
Well, I don't quite see that because there's been, I mean, maybe you have to have a bit of an over pushback because people who have any are not fitting the model type or have suffered for so many years with so much discrimination, and it's still going on. It's still going on every day. People in social media, people are constantly getting shamed or criticized for not being, whatever the standard is, whatever the standard that that person looking at them decides they should be conforming to. So I think it's kind of normal that the pushback would be, kind of extreme because of the amount of hostility and it's just hatred towards fat, hatred towards bigger bodies. It's really pretty extreme.
okay, but you know what my problem with this is? My
What?
problem with this is that the hate itself is being normalized. That's where the
Well,
problem lies.
how do you see that? Because I'm not really sure what you're referring to.
Because how people have the audacity to hide behind a screen and be hateful. That's the
Well,
real
oh yeah.
problem.
Oh yeah, that's a problem. I agree with you on that.
That's the
Yeah.
real problem. And I have been on the other side. I have been shamed because of a petite body size.
Mm.
Right.
People assuming that I am still participating in disordered eating.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, that's not obviously that's, people have to mind their own business and nobody seems to want to do that.
But you know what, Claire, that goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the call. Maybe you weren't on it yet. Myrna had asked a
No.
question about how to deal with people that are making comments about how you're eating and what you're choosing to eat. And
Hmm.
my first reaction to that, and it's almost visceral for me, I feel it so deeply, is that anybody who is questioning our actions or our appearance or our choices from anything but a place of curiosity is really sitting in judgment of themselves.
Hmm.
It starts with them.
Right.
Somebody who's judging you or me for what we look like is really pretty sure that everybody else is judging her.
That's how I feel when they say, "Oh, I wish I had your body." That's the biggest trigger for me because they don't understand. I only look this way because I'm healthy, because I work at being healthy. This is just an after thing that happens when you are healthy.
Okay, but Myrna, what you need to clarify there is you're healthy because if you didn't make the choices you make for your body, you would be pretty damn unhealthy.
True, but then that's the antithesis of what do I say to that? When someone says, "I wish I had your body," and I say, "I only have this body because I'm healthy," it's telling them your body is unhealthy.
No,
And I don't want to do that, but it's so triggering for me because it's like when someone says to you, you're so petite, they just assume you have an eating disorder. People say to me, oh, I just love your body. I wish I had your, and I hate that. I work so hard to be healthy that my body looks this way as a result of being healthy.
okay, so you just say thank you. And you say, I guess I'm making the right choices for myself.
Mm.
Mm.
It's still hard. It's still, people don't get it when they think they're giving you a compliment, and it's painfully hurtful.
But you know what, Myrna, that's it. They do think they're giving you a compliment. So perhaps if you approached it with, again, a different mindset and realized that your friend's mother-in-law is pushing dessert on her, people who tell you they wish they had your body, they're coming from a place where they don't feel ill-intentioned. Some people are just stupid. And they don't hear,
Oh, many.
and they don't, and a lot of people don't understand the ramifications. They don't see the bigger picture, right? They don't see that life and our daily existence is so very nuanced. Just like, I don't know if you ever read the book, The Four Agreements. You've read The Four Agreements? Linda, have you read it?
Yes, yes.
Right. So the Four Agreements: words matter. Don't make assumptions. Don't take it personally. And always do the best you can. And then he goes into each, underneath each of those, don't take it personally, because you don't know what is happening underneath the person who's making that statement. Don't make assumptions, because there's so much we don't know. And always do the best you can, because every day your best is going to look differently. And words matter, but not only words that you use for other people, but how you speak to yourself. Right. So opening your heart a little bit and recognizing where people are coming from, and recognizing that you don't know where they're coming from, perhaps will make it easier to accept the things that you wish you weren't hearing.
You started to say, when people ask you a question, that when they say what they say, they should come from a place of love or curiosity. Yet I'm finding, and I had to ask my older daughter what this means, when people ask you a question, what they're really wanting to do is share their whole life story with you. They're not listening to your answer. And it can be something as simple as, well, what do you eat all day? And as soon as I respond, like whatever it is I'm going to respond, like the one sentence, I have to listen to their whole life story, how they could never live without blah, 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 and blah, blah. So really what they just want to hear themselves talk. And though I don't even know how to handle that, don't ask me the question if you're not ready to receive the answer, when your real intention is to share with me your problem. This is what I'm noticing.
Yeah. Well, I think the best way to cut that off would just be say, well, happy that works for you.
Well, their point is they're asking me so they can figure out what could work for them, because clearly they're asking me because what they're doing is not working for them. But they
Right.
don't care to listen. I know my daughter said people just like to talk, so and I said, okay, that's fine. I just have to go like, oh, I still have to go, and I walk away because I don't want to listen to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Listening is an art.
Not when it's the complaint. That's you. You listen to that. You get paid for that. I don't want to listen to that.
No.
It doesn't serve me listening to the complaint.
No, but you're talking about other people not listening to you.
I'm talking about people who ask me a question. So if they're intrigued or they're interested or they're curious, why do they not listen for the answer? And my kid says because they just want to hear themselves talk and tell you their whole life story.
Okay.
Well, when people say, "How are you?" they don't necessarily want to hear the whole story,
Don't get me
obviously.
started with that. I couldn't really figure that part out. I just had to practice learning to say fine and you. Took me a long time to learn that one.
Yeah, that's just being sociable. I mean, not everybody needs to, hear all of your personal details, and most people don't want to hear all of yours. I mean, that's normal socializing, where it's not you're not a close, friend. It's a different That's very different. When someone's your dear friend, hopefully you genuinely want to hear how they are, and vice versa. But yeah, we can't be that open to the whole world. And if people decide to comment on our bodies or whatever, it's really over the line. But I don't think they're necessarily like Mindy said. I think they're trying to be friendly and complimentary. They just don't know how to do it in a way that uh, isn't intrusive, because they don't realize how intrusive it is to comment on someone's body.
Yeah, no, it's very true, Claire, but it just infuriates me to hear about what goes on social media. I don't follow any of those sites. I will not subject myself to that. Um, and anybody who is disrespectful, I will remove from the space. It's just not allowed in my community. It shouldn't be
Sure.
allowed anywhere.
Mm, no,
Um, so I would seriously make that recommendation, just not to find yourself in those places. Because I think we're in a society now where hate has become normalized, where people feel that they can just say whatever they want. They do it in public, but now doing it behind a screen, behind a device, is cowardly. And really, I think the only intention there is to make themselves feel better than. If somebody needs to put you down, they need to make themselves feel better. And what I meant to say before about the anti movements, they have become almost as fanatical. Like the anti-diet movement has become almost as fanatical as the diet culture movement. The body positivity movement has become as fanatical as the thin taste better community. So, it's a question of finding a balance, and it really starts with ourselves, right? Our relationship with ourselves is reflected in our relationship to everything else in our lives. That's where it starts. Which is why, with Myrna's first question, I was talking about her instilling confidence in herself, that what she's doing is right for her. It's not a diet for her and her health. It's a therapeutic protocol. She would suffer consequences if she didn't make the choices she made. And she's empowered by the choices she makes when she's on her own. We can't let other people take that power away from us. It's disempowering to be questioned and to be told what we should or we shouldn't be eating or doing. It's empowering when it's presented, what could you be doing?
I think the beauty of you, Mindy, is you've taught us the right words. Like I noticed, I never say now I eat weird or I'm on a strange diet. Now I just say I'm on a limited food. I'm on limited food. It's just that whole wording, limited food, made all the difference.
Okay.
It took away the whole, I'm so strange, I'm so weird, I just eat so weird, because I was feeling very, to myself, I did it to myself, ostracized and I was different from the community, and because I labeled myself that way.
Okay.
And really it was just, I'm on a limited food diet. And
Right.
so when I go out to eat and I order just 1, 2, and 3 with nothing, just plain, people, when they say, do you want it? No, you don't? I'm on a limited food diet. That's my limit.
Okay, but I want you to take that a step further. I want you to think about the fact that what you're choosing is what serves you best.
Mhm.
And the key word there is choosing. Therefore, you are not depriving yourself. You are not restricting because you're choosing not to eat something.
I'm too positive to think of that in those terms of the choosing not to. I think of the options too. The options
Okay,
of
but
what
because you're choosing to,
Mhm.
what you're leaving behind is not a question of restricting.
Right.
All right,
Right.
that's right. Somebody with a lactose intolerance, right, who chooses not to have dairy products because they don't want to feel sick, is not restricting dairy products. They're choosing, they're making a choice for themselves, a positive choice.
Right.
Moving
And people who are not lactose intolerant can't relate. And so when people will ask me, well, you don't eat that? Oh, I could never. I said, if I told you you can eat as much of that as you want, but tomorrow you won't wake up, you'll be dead. Would you still eat it? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? What do you mean you don't know? When you eat something you shouldn't eat, or you eat too much, whatever it is that you've done to your body by ingesting something, and you pay the price the next day on the toilet or throwing up or whatever it is, how do you forget that? Why would you do it again? I don't understand.
But you'd be surprised, Myrna, how many people forget about that
It doesn't surprise me
because
anymore.
the food brings them comfort. Linda, you can relate to that too, right?
Yes, yeah.
Food brings them comfort. In the moment, the behavior, the urge to behave that way is driven by a need to either become numb, check out, or avoid feeling or avoid a situation. I say that there are 3 kinds of emotional eating. One is eating in response to an emotionally driven situation. The other is to eat in an effort not to feel emotion. And the third is positive. It's to eat with emotion, to experience the meal, to feel the joy, the love, the comfort, the emotion that the sensations of the food bring to you. That's good. That's when eating emotionally is a good thing. But there are people who self-soothe with food in an effort not to feel. And the consequences be damned. And that's the mindset of tomorrow I'll be good. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the empowering one is eating to serve yourself, meet your needs, listen to yourself.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Connect to the wisdom of your body. Right. It's so funny. I had a conversation today with my mentor, my favorite teacher, who has become a dear friend. And she's writing a blog now about her feelings about all this biohacking that's going on. And what's happening is now we've got a society that is relying on devices, things outside of themselves, to make them into these superhuman beings, right? And they're losing, again, that connection to self. You can even say that about, we were talking about anti-aging. Same thing. We're removing ourselves from the connection to where we're supposed to be, instead of living in the flow of how our bodies are maturing and coming into the new seasons of life that I referred to before. Remember when menstruating used to be called the curse?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, women dread going menopause. I can tell you, having been in menopause for how many years now? 17 years, the best thing that ever happened to me. So again, it's about not looking outside of ourselves for the validation or the shoulds or the shouldn'ts. It's always about the coulds. What could I be doing for myself? Because should implies that there's a shouldn't, and that implies shame. Could implies choice, and that implies empowerment. So words matter, and how we talk to ourselves. And intention.
This was really good today. Too bad too many people
Yeah.
didn't show up.
It's okay. It's nice when it's small like this.
Yeah, it's so important. I need to hear it all the time. Our words matter. It's amazing how that self-talk can creep in. We are not taught how to self-love and talk. Myrna, you have it better than me, but I really needed what I needed to hear today. So thank you.
What does that mean? I have it better than
Well,
you.
you know how I just could hear in some of the things you're sharing, you're just stronger in the way you talk to yourself. I beat myself up. I have a self-critic. So
But I don't know how to do that. So I live on my
that's
planet
good.
all by
That's a good thing.
myself, and I can't judge myself against anything if I'm living alone on my planet. So being on the spectrum, and I'm pretty convinced now that other people who are on the spectrum probably feel the same way, unless they're masking and trying to fit into society, which as I've gotten older and trying to navigate the society things, because I was pretty clueless about everything and it didn't bother me one way or another, but I have children and they see the effects. And so now I'm learning. I'm learning how to navigate. I'm learning how to ask questions. I'm learning to understand, how does that serve you to beat yourself up, and why would you do it? Like, why would you eat a comfort food? For me, how does that work? How does that make you
I
better?
think it just becomes a habit when you're young. It could be for me, it's a habit. I look back and think if I stopped some of my bad habits at 14 or 16, would I have them now? I don't know the answer to that, but I just know you don't even need the answer. The way you're self-talking, it's so important. It's just so important. Like, if we don't love ourselves, how can we expect someone else to love us? Like, there's a saying, you probably know that, Mindy, uh, uh, nobody else can love you. You can't be loved more than how you love yourself. You can't be accepted more than your level of self-acceptance. Like it starts with me. So that's just what I needed to hear today. It was good.
Well, you
what
got to be
everybody
your own
shared.
best friend. You
Mhm.
got to be, once you hit the whole menopause thing, you get older and you start to realize you don't care what other people think anymore. It doesn't matter. You just focus on you. Like, I'm a massage therapist, and one of my clients laid on the table yesterday, and she said, well, my therapist asked me this very important question. And she said, take away your career, take away your children, take away your husband, and you're left to yourself. Where do you find your joy? How do you validate yourself and your happiness? What do you do? So she said, I don't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to do. I said, girl, I live alone. I'm having the best life. I can't imagine. Like, how do you not have an answer to that? I'm sitting on an EMF mat right now, getting my juju on, and I have a sauna. I have things to do. I got a grounding mat. I'm good. I can't imagine like defining myself based on other people. If you live on an island by yourself, you're your own cheerleader. You're your own good time.
Yeah.
Be
But
your
there-
own party.
Myrna, there are so many people, well, at least women, that's who I am helping and serving, who are so afraid of being with themselves.
Being happy?
No, being with themselves. That it
Why is
starts
that bad? Why is that scary?
trauma, past trauma, not feeling safe in their bodies, not feeling safe in their environment.
Mm.
And why is it food? Because food is our very first experience with being nurtured, not so much nourished. Food is our first experience with being seen, with being heard, with being catered to, with feeling safe. We
my
have-
kids learn touch.
Well, we have no, right, but we have no sense of self at that point. And the brain remembers eat, feel better. And yeah, touch is a very important part of that, but why people have the relationship with food that they have. And then we start to develop a sense of self, and we have feelings, and we start interpreting the world, and maybe it's not so safe. But the brain remembers eat, feel better. And you carry that through life.
I eat, I feel better.
Well, I'm not talking about, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that need to turn to food in order to self-soothe, to numb themselves, to check out, to not feel an emotion that's challenging, or to not face a situation that's too uncomfortable.
But isn't that the description of addiction?
Oh, sure, sure. So whether it's food or alcohol or credit cards or gambling or sex, whatever it is, it's in an effort to leave one's body so as not to deal with what needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And food is so difficult because you can't live without it. You know, you can stay out of a bar and you can stay out of a gambling hall and you cut up your credit cards. But you need to eat. Your brain needs food to survive. Without
process, it's a journey.
it is a journey. And, you know, just one last thing. You can never trust what you don't love. And therefore, you'll never love what you don't trust. So think about that in terms of your relationship with your body.
Mm.
And we can pick up on this next time.
Thank you, Mindy.
Thanks, ladies. I love seeing you every month. I really do. It makes my heart feel good.
I love that last quote.
Oh.
I'm gonna marinate in that.
Okay, good. Don't forget to turn over.
Okay.
Have a great night, everybody.
You too. Thank you very
You're
much.
so welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.